Xinyu Wang gives her honest thoughts on Alexandra Eala after beating her in Auckland. Alexandra Eala should depart the ASB Classic full of hope after another deep run, but the manner of her exit will surely sting. After all, the 20-year-old seemed well on track to cruise into her second-ever tour-level WTA final, yet somehow conspired to lose against an admittedly inspired Wang Xinyu. Serving for the match, having won the first set 7-5, few would have bet against Alexandra Eala's safe passage into the final in Auckland. Alas, she was broken, even seeing a match point come and go as her Chinese opponent rallied. Once she had lost that second set by another 5-7 margin, it felt as though the writing was on the wall. Wang Xinyu calls Alexandra Eala a fighter. However, all is not lost for Eala, whose search for a first title on the WTA Tour goes on. And she can leave Auckland safe in the knowledge that she is more than capable of competing on the biggest stages against some of the world's best, reaffirming the notion that she established in 2025. Xinyu certainly felt this way, as she spoke on court afterwards. Yeah, it was a crazy battle from the start to the end for sure. She's an absolute fighter. And to be honest, I feel more pressure when I'm 5-0 up than when we are love. I'm just really happy that I got through this one today and through to my first ever final. Hilariously, this is Xinyu's second career final, and her team was pictured frantically gesturing to remind her of this after her mid-speech blunder. Alexandra Eala's next event will not be the Australian Open. Whilst most players will head straight to Melbourne after the ASB Classic, Eala is taking a slightly different route. Instead, she has one extra event to play before she participates in the first Grand Slam event of the season, the Kooyong Classic, an exhibition event held right before the Australian Open. She will compete in a women's field that admittedly pales in comparison to the men's. Whilst Eala is arguably the biggest draw on the WTA side, stars like Alexander Zverev, Nick Kyrgios, Frances Tiafoe, and more will compete as ATP representatives. This event takes place from the 13th to the 15th of January, with the Australian Open main draw matches then commencing on the 18th. Xinyu Wang's quiet honesty, reflections after Auckland. The stadium in Auckland was already beginning to empty when Xinyu Wang finally sat down, the echo of applause still clinging to the night air like salt from the nearby sea. Her racket rested against the chair, strings loose, as if they too needed a moment to breathe. Winning always came with relief, but tonight it arrived tangled with something heavier: respect, empathy, and the strange intimacy that only competition could create. Across the net earlier that evening had stood Alexandra Eala. Wang had known the name long before the match. Everyone on tour did. The prodigy from the Philippines, the left-hander with fearless timing and a smile that never quite disappeared, even under pressure. Beating her in Auckland was not something Wang would describe as comfortable. It was earned, point by point, through patience and experience rather than dominance. As she wiped the sweat from her face, Wang allowed herself to think honestly. Not for the cameras, not for social media, but for herself. She doesn't play like someone her age, Wang thought. She plays like someone who believes she belongs. That belief was what lingered most. From the first game, Eala had swung freely, taking the ball early, daring the lines. Wang noticed how little hesitation there was in her opponent's movement. No second-guessing. No shrinking back after an error. Each missed shot was followed by the same calm walk to the baseline, the same focused stay. For Wang, that was familiar. She remembered being younger, when fear had not yet learned her name. I didn't beat her because she played badly, Wang would later admit quietly, her voice steady. I beat her because I've been here longer. Experience is an invisible weapon in tennis. It doesn't show up on highlight reels, but it whispers at critical moments, when to slow down, when to accept a longer rally, when to let an opponent make the mistake instead of forcing brilliance. Wang had listened to those whispers tonight. Eala, still learning to hear them, sometimes didn't. There was one rally in the second set that stayed with Wang. It stretched endlessly, the ball moving side to side like a metronome measuring time itself. Eala attacked, Wang absorbed. Eventually, the younger player went for a down-the-line winner that caught the tape and fell back. Wang raised her hand in apology, but what she felt wasn't guilt, it was understanding. She'll make that shot next year, Wang thought. Maybe even next month. After the handshake at the net, Eala's smile was smaller but still present. That impressed Wang more than anything else. Loss is a way of carving people down, especially in individual sports where there is no one else to share the weight. But Eala carried it with quiet grace. She's brave, Wang said later, choosing her words carefully. Some players wait for permission to play aggressively. She doesn't. That honesty mattered. Wang knew how easily praise could turn patronizing, especially when directed at younger players. She didn't want to speak about Eala as if she were an idea or a future headline. She wanted to speak to her, even if indirectly. The truth was simple. Alexandra Eala was not a project. She was already a competitor. Yet Wang also saw the spaces where growth lived. The moments where patience might serve better than ambition. The times when power could be paired with restraint. These were lessons tennis demanded harshly, and Wang herself had learned them through losses that had once felt unbearable. If she keeps playing like this, Wang said, almost to herself, she'll beat players like me very soon. There was no bitterness in that statement, only acceptance. Professional tennis has a strange way of turning opponents into mirrors. Facing Eala, Wang saw echoes of her own younger self, the hunger, the belief, the impatience. Winning didn't make her feel taller. It made her feel older, and perhaps wiser. As she packed her bag and prepared to leave the stadium, Wang took one last look at the court. Tomorrow it would host another match, another story. But tonight had offered something quieter, a reminder that victory isn't always about stopping someone. It's sometimes about briefly standing in their way.